Welcome to STP Talks. 1 hour, 4 topics, no less than 12 different guests. In this hour we will ask, is there one best way to do distributed software development? Also, what is really our brand identity working in Schibsted? And how do we deal with the big changes around us? But first, as we have learned from the keynote presentations this morning, computer security and lack thereof has major impact. It affects us as companies, as programmers or product owners creating new products, and as consumers and individuals. To expand on this topic, our first guest calls himself a white hat hacker. He is using his skills as a programmer and security specialist to hunt down the bad guys. From VG in Norway, please welcome Einar Otto Stangvik. Einar Otto, what is a white hat hacker?
That is a hacker who tries to use his skills for good and not break into systems and wreak havoc, but to fix problems rather than to create them.
And you have a very special role in VG. Can you tell just a little bit about yourself and what type of job you actually do?
Yeah, there isn't a simple answer to that question. I'm officially hired by the operations department, and whose job it is to keep VG active, up and running at any given moment. Audun is my boss there. But I've also been involved in security work, and I work with journalists to dig for data, hunt for bad guys, as you put it, and to spread knowledge.
And one of the stories is Norwegian politicians who had to go to jail after you revealed how he was hacking into the iCloud accounts of several young girls and reposting, let's say, private pictures they thought were private in their iCloud accounts. Maybe photos they had taken for their boyfriend. Tell this story.
Yeah, so this started in late 2012. I had been working as a consultant, doing programming for many years in a wide array of different technologies, growing gradually more and more bored, I'll have to say. And I wanted to do something good with my skill set. So I created at that point a system that monitored a couple of forums for pictures posted with geolocation tags in them. So I had a theory based on previous articles written that someone were actively spreading private pictures, as you said. So I was running a monitoring software system for a week or so when I got hold of or saw traces of the politician. So in early 2013, I stumbled onto a post he made of about 5 girls onto an explicit forum, and I worked with the data he exposed by writing on those forums the pictures that he posted and the way he interacted with other people on other forums, and eventually actually honeypotted him to confirm his identity as a sort of famous politician and tie his IP address to the original postings of the pictures and to track him down and eventually expose him through VG. So I spent about 2 weeks actually building the systems and tracking him, and then spent 6 months after that trying to get him to come forward and tell everybody, or to say he was sorry to the girls that he had hacked, and to solve the problem silently. When he didn't, I contacted a journalist in VG who put some other pressure on him and eventually got him to say yes, he had done what I claimed he'd done, and come forward.
It's fair to say he's not a prominent politician in Norway today.
No, he isn't. And I'll have to say, I never intended to trash his career. That's something he did himself by not agreeing to solve the problem silently. But all in all, I'm glad we at least solved the problem.
And then you actually started working for VG, and we were told earlier in the program about the quite extraordinary job interview where you actually asked to hack into VG and managed to do it in 20 minutes and then got hired. But one of the big, and then you were kind of working, let's call it an investigative programmer together with a journalist. And one of the big projects you have had has been to investigate Norwegian males who paid to download videos where children were sexually abused. Yeah. Tell shortly about this project, because this was a big investigative project in VG that was published over lots of pages.
Yeah, so it actually started based on the work we did with the politician. We monitored the forums that he was active on and spun into different speculative forums and web communities where we saw traces of people paying and distributing child abuse material broadly, also to Norway. We saw traces of Norwegians participating to some extent in this activity. So we spent a year or so just researching, building an understanding of these people and what they were doing, and eventually using advanced search engine techniques and just a lot of hard core work, found actually download logs from various file hosting services where people were uploading and spreading child abuse material and earning money from others downloading and paying for the downloads. And the download logs we found accumulated to, over the course of a year, to 36 million rows. So I and the journalist developed analysis software to process those 36 million downloads and siphon out what was possibly child abuse material, what wasn't probably child abuse material, what was legitimate files, and so forth. And eventually found about 5,000, 6,000 downloads from Norway, which ended up with 300 or 400 Norwegians who then had downloaded pretty dark material.
Child porn, essentially.
Yeah.
And you met several of them together with a journalist. How did they react to being confronted with what you have found?
They were shocked, first and foremost, and so we spent a great deal of time preparing ourselves for doing these meetings. How could we best get them to share something with us that they wouldn't want to share with anyone at any point in time? So we actually got to we established meetings without actually telling them what we wanted to talk about, but got them interested because the journalist called and said he was from VG and they wanted to speak with him. So we met the guys and he were immediately direct on presenting the data we had found on each and every individual, and they were so shocked mostly that they actually told their story, or to some extent. So 7 of the 10 actually admitted to what we accused them of doing.
Let's move for a moment back to the girls who had their iCloud accounts hacked. Because they experienced, I would say, a digital nightmare. Private information that maybe they had prepared for a boyfriend, but to be private and was suddenly shared against their will. With your knowledge, how vulnerable are we as private persons when it comes to what we think is private?
Well, extremely. I mean, we tend to trust the systems, too many systems every day, based on laziness, based on lack of knowledge, based on just I mean, we want to have convenient lives. So we put our trust in various companies without regard for what they'll do with the information we provide them with. We put our trust in open Wi-Fi's. We put our trust in apps on cell phones that can potentially harvest our information and be used to steal access to other systems. So we're very vulnerable.
We're going to have a question to the audience, so you should get up on the screen very quickly a PIN code where you should connect to, and you will soon get the question. But just one question to you first, Einar Otto. What steps do you personally take to protect your private data?
Oh wow. Well, I tend
briefly.
to briefly. Yeah, well, I tend to trust no one. That's the briefest of the explanations, and I'm not using the Wi-Fi here. I'm staying away from that. And I use awful long passwords. I save no information that I can't risk losing, basically.
And here now is the question to the audience. This is about your own personal experience. How often have you experienced that your personal data has been hacked into? One, several times, or 1 to 2 times, or never? So please, you have 20 seconds to vote. So what we see here is that half of the audience says they have never experienced this. 23% or 23 people, I think it is, says 1 to 2, and there are 5 people who have experienced several times. Albert Pojcik Galicia, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. You are a senior security engineer for Schibsted Products and Technology in Barcelona. What are your comments to this, and what is your own experience?
Basically, what I can say is that, as he said, we are putting our trust in a lot of companies. We are giving information to a lot of companies. We are using Google, we are using Facebook, we are using a lot of cloud technology. And of course, our data is everywhere. And that means that the bad guys doesn't have to hack our devices, but they can hack whatever device in the cloud. And maybe if they hack, for example, I don't know, that kind of Apple cloud images or whatever, they have your information without hacking you directly. And that means that probably all of us, if we are using intensively that kind of technology, that kind of cloud technology, all of us have been exposed to that kind of attackers, for sure. But maybe we don't know, so it's something that it's happening.
Let's say I want to make a bet with you. You are responsible for security in Schibsted. So let's say, how much of your personal money, if I give you a bet that whatever you put in, if you win, I will give you 3 times back. How much of your personal money would you be willing to bet that no hackers would be able to break into the firewalls you build around Schibsted data systems?
I don't really going to bet a lot of money.
How much?
I don't know, maybe €1 or €2?
I will say 10 times then.
Just to pay you the coffee.
Okay.
And the reason basically is that what we can say is that the perimeter of our security is not the technology now, it's the people. Because we are using devices, smartphones, and probably we have our email on the smartphones, or probably we have, I don't know, documents on our laptop, and we are traveling. And that means that our information is really, really exposed. So you cannot put a firewall and say, okay, all my information is, you need to break the firewall to have the information. This is not happening. What is happening is it's that we have the information in our laptop, we are traveling, we can lose our laptop, or we can be in a hotel Wi-Fi and being hacked by other people in the same Wi-Fi. And so it's very hard to ensure that you are not close to be hacked, at least.
Linn Hege Moberg Badde, welcome.
Thank you.
You are a software developer in Schibsted's identity team, so you work on the login solution. And I guess that area don't really want to mess up with security, right?
No, not really at all. The trust for our users is very important for us and clients.
And how do you and your colleagues work to make sure that the speed logging that you're working on cannot be abused?
Oh, we do that in many ways. For example, every developer has to do certain steps before they can handle any data, like encrypting their computer, using firewalls, secure passwords, storing those in, for example, 1Password. And you have to have a reason to get access to data. We don't just give it out to everyone. There's strict laws about this as well, so we have to be careful. But also we have audits every year. Actually, Albert has done audits for us. And we try to do improvements based on what the feedback we get and stuff like that.
Jan Gurda, you are a senior developer in Schibsted Tech Polska, and you're working on another important system for Schibsted, the payment system, which is also an area where you don't want hackers to get too much access, I guess, because it will be potentially used by millions of people. What is your worst nightmare from a security perspective on the platform you're working on?
We deal with money. This is a very serious domain. And my worst nightmare would be that someone goes into our system and messes with balances on people's wallet. So we could lose trust with other end clients. And when we will lose this trust, it will be very difficult to build it again. And this is what I'm afraid. But we are in a quite fortunate situation that we don't have to think strictly about identity, about authentication, because we are behind of speed identity. But from the other hand, we...
So she has the worst job.
Yeah, of allowing people go into our system. But we built infrastructure and software security. We also have just had a security audit, which result was okay. And from the infrastructure point of view, we go with onion architecture, so layer after layer. Onion is very nice term and favorite vegetable of our team.
Okay, Albert. Albert, we have one last question to you. We heard a lot about security today, but you know, most software developers are not security experts as such. But how much should they know? How much time should they, let's say, spend on understanding security principles and so on?
Yeah, depending on the current knowledge they had, but they had to invest in security. I don't know, probably the most time they can. Because it's an important topic, it's an important domain in their daily basis. So what I can say is just invest as much as you can and try to learn everything and try to learn. Because security is in everything. Maybe even in things where you don't see any risk, there are some risks there. So it's important to have that in mind and try to be, I don't know, aware of that kind of
yes, and
breaches.
we must cooperate with each other. So I look at that as specialties in medicine. So there are general practitioners, there are specialists which work on particular area, and you are this kind of specialist. I am in a role of maybe general practitioner, which I must be aware of some vulnerability vectors, but you are specialist who knows most about that.
That's correct. This is a good example, a good simile.
We are going to switch topic, but one question to you first, Einar. I took a look at your CV, and you have really worked with all kinds of technologies and seem to also have switched direction a few times. Oh, yeah. Why do you love change so much?
Because I love learning new things. I love expanding my horizons and just experiencing different things, I suppose.
And that leads us to our new topic. How do we deal with change? The IT industry is changing very rapidly. Whatever are popular technologies today may be replaced by others in just a few years. At the same time, companies, Schibsted definitely included, keep reorganizing. Most of us like Einar Otto, to say that we love change. But is it really so? Please welcome Schibsted Tech Polska's Director of Organizational Development, Joanna Sadzaczynska. Albert? Welcome. Joanna, welcome. You have a long experience as HR manager in different international companies, also in the IT industry. And here in this audience, most people are either programmers or they work with media products somehow, and these are industries where things just change like that. Do most people, from your experience, love change, or do we resist it?
This is a quite difficult question. I would say that the majority of people doesn't like the change at all, right? And although the change is our second name, there are people who really like it, who are very enthusiastic about the change, and there are also people who do not like it at all, and they try to avoid such situations. And what I think that there's just one thing in common for those two groups, and this is that we are living in a very changeable environment, in a very fast-moving environment, maybe extremely fast-moving environment, especially here in IT. And so we just need to deal with the change. And we cannot hide from it, we cannot run away from the change, we just need to learn how to deal and accept it.
And how should we deal as individuals? What is the best way to deal with changes around us?
Well, first of all, I would say that we need to acknowledge the change. We need to face the fear about the change. Then what we need to do, we just need to think about the positive sides of the change. And just to explore, maybe there is something that is positive in the change, right? Maybe there are some opportunities that will work for us very well. And then, if we have this exploration done, then we will probably accept the change and commit to it.
Linnege, you are a young software developer. What is your personal trick to keep up with all the stuff you need to keep up with in your profession?
I don't think I can keep up with everything I need to keep up with, because there's so much and it keeps changing all the time. But you just need to discuss with your coworkers, read blogs, just pay attention to what is happening. But I don't think you can excel in everything. So you need to choose your battles, kind of.
I met with the CEO in Gdansk recently, and he has a company in Gdansk. He employs around 100 software developers. And he told me that he never hires software developers who are older than 30 years old. And I was very surprised to hear that. And I asked him why. And he said, well, because at that age, software developers are typically starting to get stuck in some kind of a legacy thinking. And they're not able to renew themselves as fast as they used to. How old are you?
I'm 27, so I still have some time.
What do you think about this perspective?
I can see his point. You can see that senior developers, they don't adapt as quickly. But I don't believe in his philosophy, though. I think it's good to have a mix. You need to have those senior developers that has really in-depth knowledge about things and maybe not move as quickly, but you also need the younger ones that are, what do you call it, like want to learn new stuff all the time and stuff like that. And
Jan, you are 30. You're just at the tipping point.
Yeah, I have just turned 30. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sorry about this guy because you know he at some point or he has also already turned 30, so he would not hire himself. And software development is not only knowledge and tending to introduce new technologies, but there's also experience, and experience is something something very valuable. You simply feel that you will have problems with something. You cannot say that what particular problems you will have, but you feel that that will be problematic. Maybe let's do that other way. Maybe let's do that simpler. So experience and age come together.
We're going to have another question to the audience, so you will get up in another pin code on the screen. But one question to you while they get their mobile phones ready, Albert. At the moment, software developers are in high demand everywhere. Easy for this group to get job, and everyone wants them. But what do you think, in a, let's say, a 10 to 20 years perspective? Will it be as easy to get a job as a software programmer? Or will some of the tasks also your group is doing be automated, for instance, by some technology platforms or robots or whatever?
In the
10
future,
to 20 years perspective.
Yeah, no, I know. In the future, everything is going to be automated. Everything that it's possible to automate is going to be automated. Even the kitchen and whatever. Okay, and we need people to develop that kind of technology, that kind of artificial intelligence. So I think that the demand of software developers it's going to keep growing for a long. So I guess in 20 years, probably developers will still have. It's going to be easy to find jobs but of course, this is a offer and demand balance. So if a lot of people, since now is going to study software development, we are going to break the balance from the other side, and maybe it's going to, I don't know what's going to happen, but what I know is that technology is going to keep growing a lot.
And let's pop this question to the audience. Now is the time to vote. How many software developers will be needed in 10 years from now? More than today? About the same as today? Or less than today? What do you think? You have 20 seconds to vote. So let's say this is an optimistic audience of software developers. Joanna Turban, you are a software developer in Schibsted Tech Polska. Are you as optimistic as the audience here?
Of course, I'm optimistic. I'm a software developer. I don't want to lose the job, as all the people in the audience as well. But yeah, every company now needs software developers. You cannot really outsource everything, so it's probably easier to keep someone in-house and deal with problems, and to expand your software rather than having someone on call and having to pay for everything. So, yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Linus Granborg, welcome.
Thank you.
You are head of development in Schibsted Publishing in Sweden, with Aftonbladet as the biggest media house you are working with. How many times have you reorganized your department the last 2 years?
Once a year or something, I think.
Why is that? Why did need to keep reorganizing?
It's. I think it's also due to the big changes we are facing. We always have to match the department with our product's needs. And lately, we've gone from just being Aftonbladet to Schibsted Publishing, and that made us to. And within publishing, we have like 10, 20 brands to take care of, and also we have a lot of movement within the management that needs to put their mark also in the organization.
Joanna, I mean, let's take another example here from our system where I used to work. People who were software developers for Aftenposten newspaper in Norway, they used to be Aftenposten Multimedia. Then they became Media Norway Digital. Then they became Schibsted Norway Digital. Then they became Schibsted Norway Tech. And now they will most probably be Schibsted Tech in just a very few years. How many reorganizations do you think is fair for employees to have to deal with?
But it really depends. It really depends what this reorganization means, right? So if this is just the change of the title, That's of the company. That's absolutely fine. When I remember 10 or maybe 12 years ago, I was working for a Polish IT company. And I remember that within 3 years, I also changed the company name 3 or 4 times. And this was only just the title change. So it really depends on the situation.
Let's move a little bit back to the more individual changes. And Joanna, you have a Master of German Philology.
Yeah.
And I took a look at your LinkedIn profile, and until 2007, you were a German teacher and translator. And then, all of a sudden, from one month to another, you moved to Edinburgh and started working as a software test engineering for a leading travel search company. What happened?
It was kind of a coincidence at that point. So I was looking for a job in translations, and I found a company that looked for someone with German, and they were looking for a software tester. So I thought I would give it a bash. And then it turned out pretty well. It was interesting. It was more interesting than translations. So I decided to switch directions and to learn more about software testing, because I realized I was actually bored with what I was doing. I didn't know that at that point, but since then I know when I'm bored with stuff I'm doing. So every 4 to 5 years I need to switch directions pretty radically.
What have you learned from working in 2 so different professions?
I learned to adapt, so I know how to learn things from scratch, and I'm not afraid to do that. I think that's the main thing to do whenever you want to do a big change. You don't have to be afraid, you just do it one step at a time.
And Linus, you have gone on a different travel, but you were originally a developer yourself, and now you've gone the manager track. And let's say you finished your master in IT 10 years back and started to work as a software developer. How much of what you knew as software developer and programmer 10 years ago is still relevant today, and usable today in your organization?
For me, in my profession, or
could you be a programmer today?
Of course I can be, but I started my programming career, but I knew that I was never going to be a good programmer, so I switched to management. But I think but I think some parts still there, and I think it's helped me a lot within the management, that I have a stable ground to stand on when I'm having interviews, talk with the teams, and being a product manager, such on.
One last question on this topic to you, Jan. What has been the biggest change in your professional career, the years you have been programmer?
Yeah, I guess every time I change a job, there is a big change. And last change was 1.5 years ago when I moved to STP. I started working with completely new technologies, with completely new people with different approach than in previous company. I moved from a corporate culture to some kind of leisure culture or lightweight culture of STP.
Lightweight culture.
Yeah, lightweight culture. Yeah, but during this 1.5 year, I made significant progress in my technical skills. I learned much, but I cannot learn anything, so I try to specialize in very tight areas. I'm very interested with some very special areas which I develop my skills. I don't want to learn anything because I can't do that.
Our time is running, and we have to move on to a new topic: distributed software development. When we started Schibsted Tech Polska in 2011, we were extremely nervous that it would fail and that we would not figure out how to do this in the best way. Therefore, we also spent a lot of effort trying to identify the best method to do distributed software developer. We hoped we would be able to identify a clear best practice. But then we had more partners joining, and we see different methodologies, different ways of working in different teams. What is the best way? Is there a best way? Hopefully, our next guest can answer that. Please welcome Department Manager in Schibsted Tech Polska, Mateusz Jaracz. Mateusz, you were one of the first employees in Schibsted Tech Polska, and I think it's fair to say that no other person in this company has worked with as many teams and as many different partners in Norway and Sweden as you have. So now we will get the final conclusion. What is the best way to do distributed software development?
Yes, I was after 30 when I was hired. So anyway, there is no golden formula for distributed software development. Definitely, there is no one proper way to go. However, there are some ingredients you should pay attention to, and in my opinion, it's a good planning. It's a planning for being distributed. That means that even when you design a software, you should not isolate the software components and bound them to a particular location. So you should always think distributed. This is not. It's not like this piece of software is going to be done in this location, another piece of software in another location. Everything should be distributed. Then you should always follow up the issues related to being distributed, like a communication tools. Another one is a good mix of people with optimistic approach, and people willing to do distributed software development, and the proper tools. Proper tools are important as well, like GitHub and.
Can you give us some examples of teams in STP working very different ways and how they are still succeeding?
There are teams working in a different ways, but it's not really related to being distributed. They are just different. Like a media platform team, for instance, they don't have the team leader. Team leader is a key role, and he maintains this kind of distributed model of working. But there are some teams without the team leader, and they are doing pretty well.
Linus, you have seen this from the other side since also almost since the beginning of STP as the more product owner or tech lead in Sweden.
Yes.
What are the elements that must be in place for a project to succeed from your perspective?
I think I've seen a lot of projects from our side, and that has gone great, and I see some failures. And I think if you look at on the Swedish side, we need the will to make it work distributed. It's not like, oh, it's so hard to work with Poland. It's like you need to want to work with Poland, and also within the team that you have this belief that you want to make this work together. And I think one of the key elements is to meet a lot, and also having people staying in Sweden and also staying maybe in Poland for a longer time to get to know the teams.
Can you tell us about the failure and why it went wrong?
I think not a failure, but less good. I think where we succeed is when we have a majority of the developers in Poland, and where we have more problems is when we have a majority of developers in Sweden. So we get like it's not when there are like 5 developers in Sweden and 3 in Poland, the developers in Poland are left a little bit outside, I think. And when we are like maybe 1 or 2 in Sweden and 5 in Poland, it's working great. And then we can also, the team in Poland can take more responsibilities and be like the owner of the projects.
Johanna Turban, in your team, you have at least a product owner in Oslo, and until recently you have developers both in Krakow and Gdansk working on the projects. How do you make it work in your team?
So we recently switched to Agile. That helps a lot in our case, because previously we had problems with planning stuff and with meeting people. So we decided to have recurrent meetings to get to know each other better, to plan stuff for the week ahead, to know what to expect from each other, and to ensure closer collaboration. Because I think that's the key in distributed development, that you communicate a lot and you over-communicate rather than under-communicate. Because you need to understand the people who work in different locations. You need to understand the product team, why they want us to build this and not something else. They need to understand us, why we are building that in this way. And I think we need to meet a lot. That helps if we meet in person as well, because then you know the people you're working with, and that's the key.
Joanna, you are not a programmer, but you have definitely worked distributed in other areas across countries, different countries, and make projects work. What is your trick for working distributed from your perspective?
Well, in my previous role, I was actually responsible for the whole region in some part of HR. It was a strange region because it was Europe, it was South Africa, it was India and Russia. So very, very strange region. And that led to the situation that my team was based here in Krakow, but also in Moscow and in New Delhi. And it wasn't easy at all, and just to manage to work on some projects all together. So this is my experience, but I think that a lot of things depends on the personality, on the people willingness to work with each other, and obviously tools, and tools are very, very helpful right now. So it is possible, but it is not easy at all.
We're going to have one more question to the audience, so get your mobile phones ready. But one last question, one question to you, Mateusz, before we go on. We talked about, we haven't talked so much about the people here in this team. How important are the personalities that are put together in a distributed team to make it work?
You should be an open-minded person, open and in general optimistic towards cooperating with people from different locations. And of course language skills are important.
Language skills are important. So we will have one more question to the audience. I hope you have had all the time to get the pins into your mobile phone. And the question is, what is most important to make a distributed team work? Good planning, good communication, good methodology, or good mix of people? Yes, you could choose. You would want to choose all, but if you have to choose one, which would you choose? Let's get the question up on the screen, and you can start voting. So let's see. We have about 30. Most people emphasizing good communication, and the second one is good mix of people. Erik Såstad, you are a product manager for VGTV, and how does this reflect what you think?
I think a good mix of people. I think that's definitely important, and also good communication, as you say there. And I think actually it works very well working with distributed teams. We are not that distributed because most of my guys are in Krakow, but I think it works very well with the tools that we have to communicate, actually.
Line Willumsen Solem, welcome. You have just started actually as a project manager in Adresseavisen in Trondheim, Norway. But earlier you worked in another Norwegian company called Powell, which has a nearshoring center with software developers in Gdansk that you also have worked with. So what's the key from your perspective to making a distributed team work?
I would choose communication overall. Yeah. The more you communicate, the more you'll get to know each other and the more you learn. So I would choose that, definitely.
What about cultural differences? Was that an issue in the project you were working on?
Definitely. More so with the Norwegian side, probably, than the Polish side. We're not a very open people as such. So it took a while for the Norwegian to get used to sharing more than it took for the Polish developers to share with the Norwegian ones.
Okay, so you're saying the Polish developers were more open than the Norwegian ones?
That was my experience, yes.
So you have the same experience, Erik?
Yeah, I would say that one of the please repeat.
She was saying that her impression is that Polish developers are more open and more easily share with their colleagues than the Norwegian developers.
I actually don't share that view, but maybe because I'm Norwegian and from that culture. But I think actually we've learned to be more open over time, especially on saying what you mean. For instance, that's something that you need to know people before you start doing that. And I think at least the guys I work with were didn't say as much their opinion earlier than they're doing now. So I think it changes over time.
Joanna, there are many reasons for working distributed. It can be a cost issue, it can be where you find the best people, etc. But if you could really choose, the whole team, everyone sitting on the same location without doing the work together, or working in a distributed model as you do now. If you could really freely choose, what would you choose?
I would probably choose to be in one location. However, I would prefer all the people to have some experience working distributed, because that helps communication a lot. And it helps every team to have that experience at least once in their life, because they know that they have to express what they mean, and that they have to explain to people why they are working that way. And yeah, so that helps, but I would prefer to work with everyone in one location if that was possible.
What do you say, Line? Are there also benefits to distributed developments that you do not get if you sit on the same location?
Well, it is like you said, you get a learning experience that will help you later on in how to communicate clearly, and how to see views from other people, and how to cooperate with someone who has a completely different background from you. And I think even if we don't want to, and even if we wanted it to be differently, that is where we're headed. That's where the world is headed, into more cooperation between different groups and distributed groups, rather than having them sit together.
Do you agree, Mateusz? Is this the future model of working?
I do agree. I absolutely agree. Everything is distributed in these days. All the biggest companies like Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, they are distributed. Systems are distributed. We have great communication tools. I mean, for me, there is now something like a location. There is a location in the internet. That's the location for me.
We are going to switch to the last topic. And one question to you, Erik, as we do that. Because you have been working for some years now for VG, which is a media house and a brand everyone knows in Norway and has an opinion about. But then in Krakow, you've had to kind of create some kind of engagement and support for this VG that they didn't know about. How did you go about doing that?
I'm not quite sure if I did it, because they were already a team and knew about it from before I started. So I don't think I actually did that.
Okay. But we will bring us out to our last topic, our identity as employees in Schibsted Media Group. Only a couple of years back, almost all employees in Schibsted work for one of the daughter brands. Now, more and more projects, especially in the tech area, are for the whole Schibsted group as such, not only a sub-brand. What does this do with our identity as employees? What makes us most proud? The Schibsted brand or the daughter company we happen to work for? Or do we not care? Is it not important? Please welcome Schibsted Tech Polska's employee representative, Agnieszka Lasek. Welcome, Agnieszka, or Aga, as we say.
Yes, you can.
Let's start with Schibsted Tech Polska. In our company, people are employees of STP, yet most of them are part of a permanent team for one of our partners.
Yes.
So what is the strongest identity for most employees, would you say? Is it being an employee, proud employee of STP? Or is it the proud part of the team of VG or Aftenposten or whatever partner they work for?
I guess it's depending on the context in which you are asking this question, because obviously if there is some internal STP competition or something like this, we are gonna identify the most with the team we are currently in. And when we are talking to other people working in Krakow in tech area, we would refer to ourselves as STP employees. And in larger contexts, on the events like this one, I guess we will consider ourselves part of Schibsted. And it also differs because of how the work in teams is organized, because some do feel more influence on the products they work on, and I guess their identity with the brand they are working for or the partner company would be bigger. Like it's always used to be the VG team. So yeah, I guess
and let's
depends.
move on to the VG team, because I said, Eric, that you were product manager in VG TV, but that's not quite correct, because last week you changed your profile on LinkedIn. You are now product manager for Schibsted Product and Technology Video Platform. I guess we should say SPTVP, right? SPTVP. How do you feel this change?
This change for me is actually I'm embracing it. I think it's good, but we've known for a while that this is probably going to happen. So I think we prepared for it already, and I think most of the team, including me, maybe has more pride and in the product itself than the actual brands that we work for, either Schibsted or VG.
But it's probably still a mental travel.
Yeah, but not so big, at least not for me, because I'm still sitting half the time together with VDTV, half the time together with the media platform. So it will be, you know, a change that maybe comes more later.
How has this, if you take VG as an example, 3-4 years back, I assume there were not so much cooperation with other companies in the group, and compared to today?
No, it wasn't. But already when I started like 3.5 years ago, it was clear that what we were supposed to be making in VDTV was supposed to be used by others. So we've had that goal all along, actually.
But you know, your mother, of course, know what VG is. Every Norwegian know what VG is. But how do you tell your mother what is SPT? How do you explain it for your mother?
I haven't told her yet. I think I say Schibsted to her. And she actually says, oh, that's good, because these papers are scaling down all the time. So great that you moved to something more secure.
In the time you worked in STP, we have to keep the abbreviations correct here. Aga, has there been much changes in this regard?
Changing brands
in how we work together, where is our loyalty?
Oh well, it's a constant change. It's an IT company, so everything is changing. And yes, there are some reorganizations, changing in teams, moving people from one to another. So.
Line, you maybe you are a little outside this discussion, since you actually do not work for Schibsted, but for another media group in Norway, Polaris. But I guess you probably have a little bit the same discussions. Are people loyal to the newspaper they work for, or for the media group?
A little bit, but I think it's somewhat the other way around, because we're employed by Adresseavisen and then work for Polaris. And so I think most of us feel that we belong to Adressa, which is by far the bigger paper also. So that would be the locomotive of the train, and then we're more concerned with the locomotive rather than all the wagons that are coming after, I think.
Where is your strongest loyalty, Mateusz?
Schibsted Tech Polska. What you can observe, you can identify yourself with the partner, you can identify yourself with the company, but also what you can observe among the employees, that some people identify themselves with the technology. They want to do Java development or PHP development or DevOps operations, and they don't pay too much attention to what partner is that. Just technology is important.
We will have one last question to the audience, so you should get another pin code up on the screen. And one question to you then, Aga. What makes you most proud working for Schibsted or Schibsted Tech Polska?
Oh my God, this is a tricky one. Well, I'm proud of working with amazing people, I guess. So the people I work with make me most proud.
Okay, we will have the last question to the audience. And the question is, where is your strongest loyalty as employee? Is it to Schibsted Media Group? Is it to a daughter company of Schibsted? Or is it other? Please vote. You have 20 seconds of voting. Natalia Pu, you are infrastructure assistant in Schibsted Products and Technology in Barcelona. Welcome to Poland. What we see here is that absolutely most people here, they say they are most loyal to a daughter company of Schibsted. What would you say from your perspective?
For me, it's an easy choice because I joined SPT from the beginning, which is the global Schibsted. So I feel more part of Schibsted Media Group. But I guess it was normal, this answer from all of us, because there is a lot of STP, BG guys. So,
what if your friends ask you, what kind of company is Schibsted? What do you say?
I'll say that I always say that it's a company which has a really good culture, because it comes with this European, Scandinavian mindset. And it's really good to work it, but it's really changing all the time. So it's challenging. You get to switch hats all the time. You have to change. But it's had a really good environment, regardless of how they treat people and culture in it.
Before you joined Schibsted, you work for a well-known brand called Yahoo. So I would like to challenge you. How do you compare the company cultures of these two companies?
Well, everyone knows Yahoo, and you can go everywhere in the globe and say that you're working for Yahoo, and they will understand what it is. But I'll say that when I joined Yahoo, the culture was already there. You have just to plug in, keep on going. And on the other hand, inside Schibsted, I had the feeling that I can be the contributor from day one, and I can help on shaping the company, shaping the values. And I'll say that it's more engagement inside Schibsted, and it's more, you can be happier because you can bring other stuff into the group.
Eric, what is the Schibsted culture for you? What makes it special?
I think the global footprint, and that you're able to work with exciting technology is one of the most important things for me. And yeah, actually, that's.
And let's go to Polaris too then. What is how would you define the Polaris culture?
A very open culture, I would say. Very welcoming for me as a new person, and also eager to learn. So that's my experience so far, at least.
Natalia, you are a young organization in Schibsted Products and Technology in Barcelona. Established 1 or 2 years back, is it?
Yeah, 1 year back.
1 year back. So how are you, even though you're joining an international group, how are you creating the culture in your new organization?
Well, for us in Barcelona, it's easier because SCM was already there in the hub. But we are trying to create this culture, working a lot with the remote teams in the 4 hubs. And we have a lot of gatherings, onboarding, creating like demo sessions, anything that we can to create this workflow between us and to try to stick in the values and create the culture. But it's still as challenging to have such a distributed team.
And that wraps up this show, because our time is actually up. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been STP Talks. Thank you very much to the participants, and thank you very much to the audience. Right.